Picture this. 50,000 years ago, Earth was home to some of the most terrifying hunters that ever lived. Saber-toothed cats with fangs the size of bananas, cave lions bigger than any modern lion you would find on the African savanna today, short-faced bears that stood 12 feet tall and could outrun a horse, and yet here we are in 2026 watching videos of cats knocking things off counters. What happened? How did the house cat's wild ancestors make it through one of the most brutal extinction events in all of natural history, while these absolute monsters of the animal kingdom simply vanished? The answer is one of the most fascinating survival stories in the history of life on Earth, and it completely rewrites everything you thought you knew about what it actually takes to survive. Let's start by understanding the scale of what we are talking about. Around 10 to 15,000 years ago, Earth experienced what scientists call the quaternary extinction event. North America lost 70% of its large mammal species. South America lost even more. Europe and Asia were not spared either. The woolly mammoth, gone. The Irish elk, with its antlers stretching 11 feet wide, gone. The glyptodon, basically an armadillo the size of a small car, gone. And every single species in the saber-toothed cat family, gone. Every single one except the ancestors of the cats that sit on your couch right now. So what made cats special? The first clue lies in body size. When you look at the animals that went extinct during this period, a clear pattern emerges. The big ones died. Animals with large bodies need enormous amounts of food to sustain themselves. A saber-toothed cat like Smilodon needed to eat hundreds of pounds of meat every week. When their prey disappeared and prey animals were going extinct at the same time for reasons we will get to, these giant predators had nothing left to eat. They were specialists locked into hunting megafauna, and when the megafauna collapsed, so did they. Modern wild cats, the ancestors of domestic cats, were different. Small to medium sized, they were generalists. A wild cat does not need a mammoth to survive. It needs rodents, birds, lizards, and rabbits. These prey animals were everywhere, and they were not going extinct. The flexibility of the cat's diet was essentially an insurance policy against catastrophe. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Scientists have debated for decades about what actually caused the megafauna extinctions. Two major theories dominated the conversation for a long time. Climate change on one side and humans on the other. The truth, as modern research now strongly suggests, is both, working together in a catastrophic feedback loop. As the last ice age ended, climates shifted dramatically. Grasslands that once supported herds of massive animals began changing. But here is the critical point. Large animals with slow reproductive rates could not adapt quickly enough. A mammoth takes over 20 years to reach reproductive maturity. A wildcat ancestor takes about 1 year. When conditions change, small cats could adjust and reproduce faster. Large predators simply could not evolve quickly enough to keep pace. And then humans arrived. Early human hunters were extraordinarily effective. They used coordinated group strategies, weapons, and fire. The megafauna of the Americas and Australia had never encountered anything like human hunters before, so they had no fear response built into their behavior. They were essentially sitting targets. The wildcats that survived, they had been living alongside early humans in Africa and the Middle East for far longer. They had already developed the survival behaviors necessary to coexist without becoming prey. This coexistence with humans is the next critical piece of the puzzle, and this is where the story takes a genuinely remarkable turn. Around 10,000 years ago, something happened that changed the fate of the cat family forever. Humans began farming, specifically grain farming, and grain stores attract rodents, and rodents attract wildcats. So the wildcats essentially followed the food, wandering into early human settlements in the Fertile Crescent region. Here is the extraordinary part: humans let them stay. This was not domestication in the traditional sense. Humans did not selectively breed cats for specific traits the way they did with dogs. Instead, the cats that were naturally less fearful of humans, the ones that could tolerate being near people without fleeing, Those cats had access to more food. They reproduced more successfully. Over thousands of years through this mutual benefit arrangement, wild cats gradually became domestic cats. They survived because they made themselves useful at exactly the right moment in human history. But let us come back to the broader picture, because the cat's survival is not just about being small or being near humans. There is something deeper in the biology of cats that made them extraordinarily resilient. Cats are obligate carnivores, meaning they must eat meat, but they are also incredibly efficient hunters relative to their body size. Studies on feral cat populations show hunting success rates that are genuinely impressive compared to many larger predators. A lion might only successfully hunt 1 out of every 4 attempts. Domestic cats in feral conditions can achieve significantly higher rates on small prey. Efficiency matters enormously when resources are scarce. There is also the territorial flexibility of cats. Unlike pack animals or herd animals that require large social groups to function, cats can survive alone. They do not depend on a community structure that can collapse. When environments become unstable, solitary survival is a massive advantage. Think about what this all adds up to: small enough to survive on common prey, flexible enough to eat a wide variety of animals, reproductively fast enough to adapt to changing conditions, behaviorally equipped to coexist with humans, and efficient enough as hunters to thrive on minimal resources. The saber-toothed cat was spectacular but fragile. The domestic cat's ancestor was modest but nearly indestructible. The biggest predators in history were deleted from existence not because they were weak, but because they were too specialized, too large, and too slow to adapt. The cat survived because it was exactly the right size to be invisible to the forces that killed everything else. Next time your cat ignores you from across the room, remember what you are actually looking at. You are looking at the last survivor of a world that destroyed giants. And honestly, the attitude makes a lot more sense now.